What is up, Packer fans? Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. And of course, it is Tuesday, which means we are joined by the one and only Justis Mosqueda. You can find him on Twitter at JUMOSQ. You can find him on acmepackingcompany.com. Justis, great to have you back. How the heck are you?
I'm doing good. I was just talking to you off air about how it's getting dark a little earlier, and that's a bummer. That's not fun. I don't like that.
If we're not going to talk politics, obviously, but if there were a candidate that would say they would end daylight savings forever, I'd be interested. Let's just put it that way. So
didn't they try to run that into Congress, and then they were like permanent daylight savings? And it was
they tried doing
that's
something.
not what we wanted. We wanted
like the opposite. Yeah, they tried something, and then I don't know. It didn't go further anyway. It's been weird. But anyway.
Farmers, what are they keeping from us? What are they hiding from us? Why don't they want us to have
It's all in the Farmer's Almanac. They try to put it out every year. Nobody reads it, so nobody knows what they're trying to pull. But I digress. Justis, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the Green Bay freaking Packers. Unfortunately, they did not pick up a win against the Minnesota Vikings. Per usual, I will give you the floor to begin with. We've got a lot to go over. I'm sure we'll get to a bunch of stuff, but the floor is yours. What would you like to nerd out over first?
I don't know, man. I just kind of feel sick about that game. I understand this is coping. I understand. I have 5,000 Vikings fans in my Twitter mentions right now saying, cope, take the L, whatever. You say this every year. This is our Super Bowl, this type of stuff. We should be 4-0 right now.
Yeah.
We really should be. We fumbled the Eagles game.
Yep.
We fumbled this game in a bunch of different ways. Not as bad as the Eagles game, but we still fumbled this game pretty bad.
Yep.
Like, you look at any of the advanced stats, the Packers are probably still, even though they have a 2-2 record, they're probably like top 16 in the NFL. And that's with this quarterback situation. It's just like, we cannot get out of our own damn way. We just can't do it.
It's really funny that this is your opening salvo, because I had planned to have my opening salvo be almost the exact same thing of just like, I go back and I watch this, and for anyone that might be new here, I am very open to saying, like, you know what? They won that game, but the tape did not look good. And like, they got lucky to come away with one, or they lost that game and just burned the tape because that was as awful as you saw. And like, sometimes we'll say it's never as bad as it looks, and sometimes it's very much as bad as it looks. And there are other times where you go and you watch it and it's a loss and it feels kind of crappy in real time, which it's going to when you're down 28-0. And then you get this lens of like, just everything is a pile of crap, which very much beginning in this game it was. And I don't mean to be this ultimate cope either, but I go and I watch this game and I'm all through the defense. I've got about 10 plays left to review on offense as we're recording this. And defensively, I have a few more concerns, especially early in this game. That I'm a little bit more didn't feel great about how this game began. But even then, you've got a dropped wide open interception by McDuffie. You've got a pick later from McKinney. You've got the forced fumble by Keyshawn Nixon. There was still stuff defensively, but I look at offense, like they actually controlled the line of scrimmage really well, despite Minnesota basically being able to completely tee off and knowing that they had the lead and could basically do anything that they wanted to, knowing that Green Bay wasn't going to run a ton. There were receivers open down the field. Like, I feel actually extremely good about the game. This is the fourth straight really good game plan on offense, in my opinion, from Matt LaFleur. And not even game plan in this one, because I talked about this a couple of times now, but by the 14th play, they were down 21-0. So it's like, I'm sure the game plan was completely out the window, and they still had stuff that they felt comfortable dialing up that they could have success with. There's, again, receivers, tight ends open. Anytime Jacobs touched the ball, basically something good happened. Jaden Reed remains amazing. Like, I go through and I'm watching this and I'm just like, there is so many positives that I could take away from this. And I get it's also with the lens that they were down early and whatever, but I'm with you. I think Green Bay has coughed up 2 games against the Eagles and the Vikings. It is more self-inflicted wounds and own errors, which they need to learn from, clearly, but I'm good with this one. I'm not good. I take that back. I'm not good with this one, but like, I feel good about the tape. They need to execute better, which is a very clear and obvious issue at this point.
Yeah, I don't think that they're any worse than what I thought they were coming into this.
No.
Like, some of the same concerns that I had kind of showed their ugly faces, right, in this game. But I don't think there's anything where it's like, we need to reevaluate who the Green Bay Packers are.
No.
Right? Like, I don't think there's any of that. Yeah, man. I mean, even just like the field goals, right? one of the two short missed field goals puts you up. Like,
Yep.
simple as that. That's not including the drop pick from McDuffie. That's not including Musgrave thinking that he was going to get targeted on that play instead of Dobbs. That's not including who was it that the pass just like hit their chest?
Wicks
Wicks.
in the fourth down. Love is late on that throw too. Like if he throws that earlier, he probably just has a wide open catch, but still gives him a 50-50 and it literally hits him right in the chest bone and dropped. Yeah.
We get that. We get Nixon not getting his head around on the touchdown when he's right there in coverage, right? Valentine on the double move. Wasn't there something? There was some like penalty or something like that before the Valentine play.
Was on the opening drive. There was a Tucker Kraft one later that was a holding that erased a big Emmanuel Wilson run, and then that completely disjointed that drive. I'd have to think back as to exactly what
maybe I'm thinking the previous week. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of self-inflicted. Like there were opportunities, right? Like we all knew. Like I talked to you last week, I think, about Darnold, and I was like, he's going to put a couple balls in play because I'd ran through all the Darnold passes because I was like, I want to know what the heck that they're doing, right? I'm like, he's going to put like 3 balls in play, and you need to catch every single one of those, right? I actually think if there's anything I was wrong about, it was a positive for the Packers in that they are equipped to survive being in a passing game script against this defense. I would have, if you would have told me they're down 21 this early, I mean, if anyone follows me on Twitter, I was trying to bench Jordan Love before the half even got done. But like the fact that they were able to go against that defense and they were able to put points on it. I mean, Love almost put up 400 yards. Like it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
They knew how to attack it. And I thought the offensive line, for the most part, was really, really good in this one. And you didn't really hear from Grenard or Dallas Turner. You didn't hear from Andrew Van Ginkel. You didn't hear from their defensive tackles. Like they got home on a couple blitzes, and there needed to be a couple areas where they picked up the blitz better. Another one that made me sick, and this is probably not one that was like clearly evident, but Minnesota has a 4-man rush on, and it's late in the game. It's probably fourth quarter. And they're running a deep concept, and Wicks comes wide open over the middle of the field. And actually Reed is open on a deep crosser as well. A deep corner route as well. And Love, the offensive line has it protected like perfect. Like Rasheed Walker gets his guy going around the edge, and the rest of the line just makes a wall against everyone. And Jenkins, as he's like coming across, is like throwing the guy out, and it kind of knocks Josh Myers off of his guy. And as Jordan Love's about to step up into this perfect pocket to probably deliver an awesome ball down the field, like he's wide open, Dontavian Wicks in the middle of the field, like Myers gets knocked off of his guy kind of by the guy coming through, and the defensive tackle steps up right into the play so that Love just has to like heave it out sideways and can't complete the pass. And like they had been in such a great rhythm on the offensive line up until that point of just blocking everyone up, and they had it perfect again. It's just like every little one of these things. And then, Halfley calls a blitz, and it's a screen to the other side. Again, the double tip ball from Musgrave to Dobbs into the hands of another player. Like there were so many random fluky, and it's not all fluky. The Packers deserve a ton of blame for, again, the self-inflicted wounds, the penalties. Kraft has a holding, like Kraft has a fumble. Like there's so many things that are just frustrating. And you could tell from Matt LaFleur too, of like, he was upset about the same mistakes happening kind of over and over, and that's what they really need to correct. I honestly, Justice, I think they're going to go into LA. I think their offense is going to find a rhythm. They had 4 games where it's Bizarro Philly field or Brazil field against Philly, 2 backup quarterback games. And then you have to reinsert your quarterback who has been out for 2 weeks, who's clearly a little bit rusty, maybe not quite all there yet, and is going against one of the more bizarro one-of-one defenses in the entire NFL. You can't get in any rhythm going that. I think they're going to get it back against the Rams and then just go from there and start getting into a rhythm of where we expect this offense to be.
Yeah, I think especially with the Rams coming off of some success that they probably shouldn't have had on paper, right? Like, I don't think anyone thought that they were really going to beat the Niners, for example, right?
No.
That team is beat up. You just look at all the guys on their offensive line that are out right now. Yeah. It is not fun for those boys. So if there's any get right game for the Packers, it's definitely like the Rams at this point. Like, I know they just, they're coming off a win and all that, but talent wise, You're going to be hard pressed to find a team that is probably less talented, especially in the trenches right now, than the
And
Rams.
actually, they just came off a loss to the Bears, right? It was the 49ers was
Oh
2
yeah,
weeks
that's
ago.
right.
Yeah, 49ers
Yeah.
was 2 weeks ago. So
I
yeah,
blacked
even
out the
that.
Bears win. I don't want to deal with every NFC North team winning other than us. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, lines are up as we speak in this game right now. Yeah, that's never advantageous. It's a tough division. That's why you can't let these sort of games go or Philly games go, is because these things probably going to matter when it comes to tiebreakers come the end of the year. But hopefully Green Bay can avoid that and just start playing the brand of football that we came accustomed to towards the end of last year. What did you think of Jordan overall in this game?
fine. I mean, obviously there were some balls that like the placement wasn't right, stuff like that. But um, all things considered, I mean, he's kind of who we thought he was
Yeah.
coming into the season. Like he wasn't able to. You could I know like after the game, Love is like, no, I felt fine. Like no excuses, all that stuff. LaFleur's on the no excuses stuff. Like he is playing through an MCL injury, and he clearly looks like he cannot deliver in the same way that he was previously. And hopefully that comes back within a week or two is usually like what the timeline is like for a grade 1/2 MCL tear in terms of being fully healthy. They even said in the presser today that he's feeling sore and stuff, but like nothing cause for concern or anything like that. Like he was obviously playing hurt, and the fact that you could still operate that well when you're playing hurt is a plus. I'm happy that that one play where he went down and he banged up his knee didn't end up being something more serious.
Yeah, no, that could have been worse. There's also one that I posted for Elton Jenkins where he got completely rolled up from behind and it
Yes.
looked
Yeah.
brutal. And I'm like, I don't know how he's not like done for the year, much less got up after that play. Like that looked awful, especially for a guy who's had some serious. He had an ACL before, right? A few years ago now. So man, that was scary as hell. Like, yeah, they thankfully, and I know they still have some injuries in this one, the Christian Watson one, and of course the Devontae Wyatt injury as well. The Wyatt one's interesting. It's so funny, like how this stuff works. If you were to show me the Wyatt one and the Jenkins one and said one of them was in a cast and a walking boot and the other got up, I would have said, oh yeah, Jenkins is in the cast and a walking boot. I'm like, I think Wyatt just gets up from that. Like his leg actually almost like kicks out. And again, not a doctor by any means, but his leg kicks up much more to the point where I'm like, all right, I think maybe, but he's the one that's out. And of course, Jenkins somehow walks off. So just proves that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to injuries, but it is crazy how some of that stuff works. And then Watson's looked really bad too. It sounds like high ankle sprain in maybe just a couple weeks, which I think would be a good result coming out of how that initially looked as well.
Yeah, it didn't sound like they wanted like ours really on the table for him, which is something that Ian Rappaport had reported this morning. Um, high ankle sprains are tricky. The Cleveland Clinic, I looked it up. But I was like, what's a recovery time for one of these things? Like usually, because I know we've had them in the past, but I just want to like actually go to a doctor and have that told to me. It says usually like 6 to 8 weeks to fully heal. NFL players usually push it, right?
Yep.
Like if Love has a grade 2 MCL sprain, like the earliest you come back is 3 weeks, and that's when he came back, right? So I would assume Watson is probably going to come back a little bit quicker than that. But Matt today said, at least a week is what he was saying. But he's like, I don't know if more than that. It's like, all right, well, then if IR is not on the table, then you're probably thinking he's back within the next 4 weeks, right? So probably some good news there, relatively. I mean, it looked nasty when he went down.
He also very clearly does not talk to the medical staff before going into those, so he may not fully know whatever. I mean, he's probably lying. I know
why he does that thing, because he does the whole like, I haven't even talked to the staff yet, so I can't tell you. It's like you said limited for 3 weeks, knowing damn well exactly how Love was doing in practice, and he didn't tell us. So like, why is this the line of like, oh no, I'm the truth teller, I cannot lie to the media? Like, what are we doing, man?
Don't get me started on that. I at the end of the day, I don't think it's a big deal at all, but I also think there's a level of
we're going to
ridiculous.
find out on Sunday. Like, it doesn't change anything at all.
That's the point. That's the point. You can talk about it differently without actually having to give away any information. I actually think there's a way to even make it more, in the dark by actually talking about it sometimes too. But I digress. We talked about the injuries. We talked about Jordan Love. Let's talk about the pass rush, because that is one that I think a lot of people are concerned about through 4 weeks. I think that's one thing that we maybe didn't expect to be concerned about through 4 weeks. Now you've got a Devontae Wyatt injury on top of that, who has arguably been their best pass rusher and just best defensive lineman through 4 weeks. It's not going according to plan. And I think when you look at Rashawn Gary, and I've thrown this out there on Twitter and through a variety of different mediums so far, 1 sack for Rashawn Gary in the last 11 games. I thought Kenny was fine in this one, but you're not seeing a super disruptive force. Preston's not that sort of player anymore. He's a good rotational player, but you're just not seeing the impact from this defensive front that I think we were certainly hoping for going into the year.
For sure. So I read this article for APC earlier today. League-wide pressure rate on passing downs, right, for players who play at the defensive end position, which is an alignment, not, what are they listed on the roster. It's, where are they lining up based off of the shoulder pad trackers, right? It's 12.5%. Gary right now is at 11.7, so he has a below average pressure rate. Last season, at the time that he signed his extension, it was 22.2%. So he's about half as productive as he was last year, right? Not only that, he is also the most productive Packers pass rusher right now. The other players are not ranked very high. So out of 71 qualifiers, Gary ranks 34th, Preston is 51st, LVN is 61st, and Kingsley Enagbare is 68th. That's just not good enough, man. It's not going to get it done. And, even I brought it up last week because we talked about the Tennessee game, and I was like, yeah, they got all these sacks, but, I don't know if they can consistently generate pressure. I know they got those things in clusters, and the backup right tackle was in and all that, but this season they have not been able to consistently pressure quarterbacks. They have to get better there. I know people are like, well, then what should we do? And I'm like, well, get more out of them. There's nothing you're paying Preston, you're paying Gary. Lucas Van Ness is a former first round pick. They just got to get better. So do whatever you need to do. I know they're getting home with some 5-man rushes. Honestly, I know everyone will point to the Keyshawn Nixon sack fumble and stuff like that. But you got to get home with 4 in this game. Yep. That's the whole point of this damn scheme. And I said that this summer. A lot of people didn't want to hear it when I was like, I don't know if Preston Smith is good enough to be playing defensive end full time for this team. I don't know if Slayton is, should start like they were doing in the preseason. Now, Slayton might be starting still, but he's not getting passing down reps. So that's a different conversation. And I actually thought Slayton actually played half decent in this game. He got a couple of pressures that I was not expecting. But yeah, I mean, their interior pass rush has been a lot better than their edge pass rush this year. And now Wyatt is out. So that's a pretty significant question mark. The good news is the Rams offensive line is basically all backups at this point. So this is one where it's hey, if we want to try some stuff out, they might give you some leeway.
Save us Colby Wooden. That is what it comes down to. Now,
Jonathan Ford is designated to return too. Don't forget about him.
Oh,
he
that's
might
true.
be coming back up off of the injured reserve soon. So
yeah, that's true. I totally forgot about that. I don't know that his pass rush is going to help all that much, but yeah, you never know. Rashawn Gary, and obviously these are just my grades, so take them for what they're worth. Through week 12 last year, so from the beginning of the year to week 12, coming off the ACL, I had a plus 4.55 grade on Rashawn Gary. From week 13 of last year through now, negative 2.0 grade during that stretch. So from plus 4.55 to negative 2 is not good. It's obviously a 6.55 difference. And it's just the difference between a really good player who is making an impact basically consistently and somebody who's hurting your team more than he is helping them. And that's a massive difference. And when you put that investment in Rashawn Gary and expect him to be an impact player, man, and I get last week he had a sack called back from a Preston Smith penalty, and he helped on the LVN sack a week ago. And there's definitely some plays too that he'll be making here there. But I talked about it a little bit today, Justice. But there's a play where he's one-on-one with Josh Oliver, and it's a rundown, so he's got to play the run first. But he doesn't really kind of play the rundown that much. And I get Josh Oliver, very good blocking tight end. I was really hoping Green Bay was going to pick him up when he was a free agent, but Minnesota gave him a pretty dang big contract for a backup number 2 tight end, blocking tight end. But couldn't get off of Oliver. There's another play where Gary twist inside and he's one-on-one with CJ Ham, and CJ Ham basically just brushes him to the side as a fullback. For those of you who don't know at home, like CJ Ham is a fullback. He's in the middle and Gary just gets no movement on him whatsoever. Then there's a play later where he comes inside and Aaron Jones of all people is staying there and Jones picks him up fine. Now they had players behind Jones to pick him up because they assumed that Gary was, or whoever it was coming inside, was going to get past Aaron Jones, but Jones basically picks him up just fine and doesn't even need the help behind him. Like it has to be better. And they got to find an impact from these defensive front players.
100%. And the weird thing too, is you would think Gary would be fresher because they're rotating him out pretty heavily. Like the only guy who's consistently on the field, like in terms of like probably north of like 60% snap count, is probably like Kenny Clark at this point, I would guess, in terms of the defensive line. Here's another stat. All right. So an average rate for the NFL, the Packers have had 298 collective pass rushing snaps between Gary, Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbare. If they were producing at an average rate over this season, based off of the NFL average, they'd have 37 pressures. Right now they have 26. So they're about a third worse than – they're a third of the way from an average NFL team to me and you right now.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. On top of that, mind you, so they had 26 pressures. This is all from NFL Pro.
Okay.
Cleveland's Myles Garrett and Houston's Danielle Hunter solo have each produced 23. So that's 3 pressure difference between a team of four defensive ends and a singular defensive end, right? So I don't know. It's not unreasonable to expect more out of Gary, especially the way he produced the last 2.5 years. I don't know what's been happening. I don't think that he's I get paid, I turn it off, I go off to retirement, all I needed was that signing bonus type of guy. Like, he's functionally a team captain for this team, right? I mean, the way that they talk about him in the locker room and stuff like that, he's one of the leaders of this team. So I don't think that's what's happening. I just think they just got to be better, and they've had a pretty bad month up front.
Kenny Clark has played 180 snaps out of 254. So he's at 70.8, 70.9% of the snaps so far. But 180 for Kenny Clark, if you take that over 4 games, that's about 45 snaps per game. And then Rashawn Gary's at 168, so 42 per game. Preston Smith's at 159. Then you get to Wyatt at 115, Slayton at 107, Enagbare at 106, Brooks at 96, Van Ness at 85. So none of these guys are playing massive amounts of snaps. The hope would be that these guys would be fresher, even more able to attack, even more ability to get off of blocks. And it just hasn't really amounted to that as of yet.
Right. And not to compare people, because like this is a super high bar, right? But like Max Crosby plays every down for the Raiders.
Yeah.
Every single one. And he's a psycho. And it's legitimately one of the more impressive things that I've ever witnessed, and I don't think that people realize how nuts it is that he can produce at that level, playing that many snaps. But yeah, I mean, when guys are off 40% of the time on the field, right? Like pass rushing downs, we need you to go. We need you to go, man. Get on your horse. And it really sucked too, because do we talk about coverage now? Let's talk about coverage.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Let's do it.
They screened us to death, man.
Their screen game was awesome.
They screened us to death.
It was really good. It was really, really good. I was impressed. Like, first of all, when they called it was good. But second of all, I'm not, of all the things that Matt does really well in offense, I'm not a huge fan of his screen package. Like it's very meh. This was a very impressive screen game. And yes, they very much screened Green Bay to death.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I looked and I saw, I think it was 10 targets for tight ends and running backs. And I think every single one of those came out of the backfield, except for the touchdown that Eric Wilson allowed.
Wasn't the McKinney pick to Jones?
Was it that deep downfield? I don't remember.
I'll have to look.
I don't remember who was targeted.
Fennel posted it. I'll look it up right now while you go into the coverage more.
Yeah. So, all right. Obviously, Eric Stokes had a bad game. We all saw it. Honestly, like he's just too stiff to run with these like really good route runners who can create separation at the top of their routes, man. Like he's not doing a bad job until they cut. And then
Yep.
once they cut, he's just falling behind these guys. There was the big crosser, right? Early on in the game, there were a couple dig routes that he ended up allowing. I don't actually think Keyshawn played that poorly. Obviously, there was the touchdown that he didn't get his head around for. Outside of that, there was no big one. The Ballantyne one, like he got one double move early on in the game. Whatever. I mean, double moves, if they have that much time to run a route, that's a pass rushing problem too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not faulting him too much for that. The safeties have been playing good all year, but Wilson, oh my God. I don't know if you like focused in on him, but Kevin O'Connell sure did, man. Like
Yep.
I don't think we could play Wilson anymore after this game. Genuinely, like I think that it's done. You got to play Cooper. Like I know you're maybe not willing to just replace McDuffie snaps with Cooper right now. I'm not even worried about McDuffie at this point. Like the way they abused Wilson was insane. They would just get into tight sets anytime that the Packers were in base, and they would just run out routes because he's having to be the flat defender, and he just has no chance
Change it for that.
against these
Yeah.
wide receivers running these speed outs and stuff. They were attacking Wilson. They had a big game plan coming in. Like, let's get him into a 4-3, right? We'll put two tight ends on the field. Who cares? And then whoever's at outside linebacker, we're just going to run speed outs with a wide receiver. We're going to put our tight ends on one side. Our receivers are on the other. So an outside linebacker has to be on, a slot receiver, even though there's only two receivers on the field, so they can't bring in an extra corner. That was tough to see because they attacked him early and often.
I was waiting for somebody to post the Justin Jefferson on Eric Wilson, and people just freak out and go nuts of like, how is Eric Wilson over Justin Jefferson? I was waiting for it, but yeah, that did not go well. And then the touchdown to the tight end where Wilson just completely sucks inside for some reason and just completely vacates his spot and allows the touchdown there. It's like, yeah, that was far from ideal. And I'm with you. Like, he had that great game a couple weeks ago in what the Colts game where he had the forced fumble and the big play on the speed option and the interception. But I think that's going to be a major outlier game for Eric Wilson. And listen, he's good special teams dude. And you can, I think, utilize him as a solid backup, but that you have to start looking at Hopper or Cooper or somebody in that spot, or Oladapo. I don't care at this point, like figure something out, because yeah, you could tell they had a plan for him and it did not go according to plan for Eric Wilson.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, and the Packers, I think, have been doing a pretty good job of keeping Eric Wilson off of the field on passing downs, even when teams go heavy. I think that's when we're seeing, Cooper actually come in and play 4-3 outside linebacker and stuff like that. But Minnesota had a plan where it's, hey, we're going to be 1st and 10, 2nd and short, whatever. It looks like it's going to be a running down, and we're just going to attack Eric Wilson because it's free money. And that hurt. That's I mean, between that and Stokes, I think are maybe the only adjustments you make on defense personnel-wise. Like,
I honestly think that even, the game before Valentine went out, like Valentine basically had not completely taken over, but he had more snaps than Stokes in that game. Like, I think we were transitioning to Carrington Valentine's going to be the corner opposite Jair Alexander. Like, I honestly think you can you can argue that the Packers' top two corners were out in this game in Valentine and in Jair.
And I think I'd want in this game, at least. Like, if you're going against like a Drake London or a Michael Pittman or just one of those big body receivers who don't, they're not killing you at the top of routes, right? Maybe that's when you want Stokes. But against Justin Jefferson and Addison and Naylor,
it's like the worst matchup. Yeah,
dude, that is not who I want Stokes playing against, especially on all these tight splits where you're getting two-way goes with the wide receivers and stuff like that.
The Terry McLaurins of the world, like any like the Devontae Smiths, like anyone that has the route running chops and the ability to break in and out at any given moment, like that is just his worst possible scenario. And to your point, like I would feel actually like, I wouldn't know that I'd feel great, but like a DK Metcalf, I'd be like, okay, put Stokes out there. And I feel like he's like, they're both just going to run like go routes.
It's agile guys. Agile guys are the ones that you worry about because Stokes will be in his hip pocket 12 yards down the field. the receiver makes a cut and he's 3.5 yards behind, and you're like,
yeah,
damn it, man. Like, yeah, it's an athletic thing. Like, he's very fast in one direction. He's not great in terms of change of direction.
change of direction.
It is what it is.
Totally agreed. Just before I forget, it was Aaron Jones on the Xavier McKinney interception down the field. So ran a little bit
Aaron
of
played well. Miss you, Aaron.
Yeah, he did. Jacobs played well too. They just didn't get him the ball a ton. When he got the ball, he looked really good.
Did you see the outrage about the running back rotation? You see some of that today?
I was so weirded out a little bit by this. And it started happening.
Jacobs was on the field for 2/3 of the snaps.
Yeah, it was
a blowout.
It started in the press conference. Like they were asking about it in the press conference yesterday, like in the post game, and I'm like, it didn't seem that different. I think you can make an argument that maybe Jacobs just should have got the ball a few more times or whatever. Like I get that, but
they're down 21, like 12 plays
the
in
14th play. I know,
yeah.
I know. That's the point. Like I don't like. Yeah, you know what? Things go out the window after that point. You like look at the first drive. And you go down, it's a 10-play drive. Jacobs was heavily featured. They started doing some of the orbit stuff. They gave it to Reed on a handoff or a pitch, whatever it was, on an orbit. And then Jacobs was the blocker on that. And Jacobs was heavily involved in that drive. And then you come back on down 14-0 on your second drive on play 11, and you're given to Jacobs on the first play, and he loses yards. You pass the next, and it's picked off the next. And then 14th play, you're down 21-0. Good luck. It's not going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs handoffs from there on out. So It is what it is. And yeah, I didn't think there was anything
they had
to
to throw damn near 50 times just to get back into this game.
Yeah.
Clock. Like, I don't know. I didn't get that. I saw that last night after I got done with all the work, and I was like, what are we talking about, man? It's not like we were like featuring Emmanuel Wilson. It's not like Emmanuel Wilson got 20 carries and was just vulturing Jacobs. Like that's not what was going on.
That and like I also saw people online more of like, well, why weren't they doing more of the stuff that they did against the Colts? And why was this not a run first offense? And why weren't they doing a bunch of the orbits and the and I'm like, all that stuff goes out the window basically as soon as you're down 21-0, 10 minutes into the game or whatever it was, or I think it was 15 minutes into the game. Either way, yeah, that's why that stuff wasn't happening. I don't know. It is what it is. And I didn't think again, Jacobs had what 2/3 of the snaps. So yeah. It is what it is. You want to talk kickers?
Cut them. We're wasting time. I'm not joking.
I know. I know you're not.
You look at the EPA. He's the least valuable kicker in the league right now. Minus 11 points is what he ended up costing the Packers relative to an average kicker. He hasn't even attempted a 50-yard kick yet. That doesn't count the short field goal that he missed against Tennessee that got called back because of a penalty. He's not good. We're wasting time. There's people like, what should we do? I think someone brought up the practice squad kicker. I don't think the practice squad kicker can be activated. That's an international exemption thing. You have to declare that guy basically as like a practice only player at the start of the whenever you get down.
You could cut Narveson and put Hale on the 53 though, right?
I don't think so. I think he's DQ'd for the year.
Really?
My understanding. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think he's DQ'd for the year is what my understanding was.
You can't call him up as like an active
elevation
from the No, okay.
No, he is a practice player for the year. That's what you got the exemption for. That's why he's on the roster exemption.
What if you cut him? What if you cut him as your exempt player?
You know, I don't think there's ever been. I can text. I can literally here. I'm gonna text. I can text my buddy Mark Dugarian, who works as the European scout for the NFL right now.
Okay,
we work together at the XFL and Optimum Scouting.
Is he in Europe? Because it's going to be pretty late over in Europe.
He's in California, I believe.
Oh, okay, I was going to say it's 3 a.m. over there right now, but yeah, that works better if he's in Cali. Because yeah, that's an interesting. Either way, let's just put it this. I don't think Alex Hale is the answer either. So like we can probably put that aside. But
I don't think so. Aside. People are like, what should we do? Trade for a kick, pay out the ass for a kicker. I don't want to like try this again. Go get Younghoe Koo. Go give up a third and a fourth for Younghoe Koo. Go get Jaime Fairbairn. I don't care.
All right, so all right, who are bad teams that would like actually consider this? Like who's Jacksonville? They don't have a kicker, right? They have sucky kickers.
I don't think so because they lost their kicker in free agency, right? And then he got in trouble.
Who's the Giants?
The Giants kicker, Greg
Yeah.
Joseph,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
who's 5 of 6 right now.
5
He's
of 6,
he's
yeah.
the face of a league average kicker right
There
now.
you go.
I'm looking. Okay, Younghoe Koo Falcons.
Falcons
These
is
other
they're
teams
probably
are
not going to
pretty
do anything. The
good.
Texans are certainly not going to do anything.
McPherson isn't going anywhere from
How
the
about the
Bengals.
Panthers? What do we got in Carolina? They need all
Eddie
the draft picks.
Pinheiro, he's 6 of 6 right now. Let's go do it.
There you
Let's sign
go.
him up.
Eddie Pinheiro. That's the answer to all the problems. I'll take an Eddie Pinheiro. Like listen, the Panthers can get all the draft picks and all the young players that they need. You can trade Braden Narvison and I don't know you can't do it now because Watson's hurt. But do you need a wide receiver? Do you want Bo Melton? I don't know. Like, yeah, there's got to be some sort of trade you can work out there.
Just send a pick. Send a pick and give me a kicker. I don't want to have to think about this anymore. The bad kicker man should not be allowed to hurt me anymore. I'm done with it. We're a full-on circus, man. We are post-double doink Bears right now in terms of the kicking game. That's embarrassing.
What's Robbie Gould up to? Is he still out there somewhere? Yeah. Oy vey. It's just one of those things that if Green Bay is not used to being in this position, that's a pretty dang good run of kickers. There's I think a Dave Rayner in there. There was a Brett Conway in there for a little bit, but for the most part, this has been Jackie Longwell, Crosby. And yeah, now when you get in this position, it is a nightmare position. It's like quarterback. You can't just dial a hotline and find one. You are normally screwed. So yeah, if they can find a team that'd be willing to part, I'm all in, but sometimes that's easier, especially at this point. Maybe the trade deadline, you could work something out more, but I don't know. Every team is still stupid enough to think that they're in this. I feel like even Carolina is going to Andy Dalton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's getting a little bit better results.
He very much is.
Yeah.
All right.
Figure it out at some point. Maybe right now isn't the time. But keep an eye out. Make some calls about kickers. The Packers did work out 2 players today. They're both running backs.
Yeah.
So usually they've been working out guys on Tuesdays for most of the time that I've paid attention to the team. And the past 2 weeks, they brought in guys on Mondays too. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if there's hidden injury or what the heck is going on. I don't know why they're interested in kickers. We got 3 on the active roster. Merriweather on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Sorry. Merriweather on the practice squad, who was called up in week 1. And then Lloyd is designated to return off of IR. So I don't know why they're in the market for another.
I think these are probably just emergency board building would be my guess, but who knows? Where was I going to go with that? Yeah, no, I don't think they legitimately need any running backs, but yeah, we'll see if they maybe bring in some kickers on Tuesday. I talked to Nagler earlier today and we were kind of talking about this and what, cause Matt said to Rock right after the game, yep, we believe in Narvison. And then he said in the post-game presser and Aaron's like, well, yeah, what is he, what is he supposed to say? But B, like, it's not his call. It's Goody's call. So like, of course he has to say that just in case like Goody doesn't make a move at kicker, I guess. So I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, I don't think, unless again, you trade for somebody, I don't know. Like, are you going to bring in Cade York? Are you going to bring in Matthew Wright? Are you going to bring in?
It has to be a trade. It has to.
Like, there's nobody out there. I will say that I think they had an option available with Austin Seibert, who was out there up until week 2. Cut him. The Jets, like basically Saleh came out and said like, this guy's an NFL kicker. Somebody signed this guy. And maybe he was just trying to drum up trade interest or something, but like, he was almost like over the top of like, this guy's a good kicker. We don't want to let him go. They probably should have kept him because Zerline's not doing well either and just kind of lost him a game on a field goal, but I digress there. He's 19 of 19 in Washington since week 2 with all of his kicks. And he is, I don't think
the thing about Seibert is he never had a super big leg. So it like hurt you in the touchback game.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter anymure.
No,
it doesn't matter anymore.
I don't think Seibert's attempted a 50-yarder yet. I think it's all been 49-ish and under. So it's not like he's had, but I'll take 19 of 19. He hasn't missed a 37-yarder off the post.
You know who else hasn't attempted a 50-yarder? Braden Arvison.
Yeah, that's
and he keeps missing kicks. Man.
Just let Waylon do it. Just just let Daniel Waylon do it. I trust him.
He's so good.
He's really good. Yep. Daniel Waylon, very good positive thing to talk about this week. Xavier McKinney in the safeties. I really like the way Javon Bullard plays as well. Evan Williams in limited snaps look good this week. Like they found safeties. They got a punter. There's still a lot of good stuff going on offense, but man, kicker, I don't even want to think about it. And it is like, it's to the point now where like we get into these like Monday night games and I'm seeing like kickers just like casually drill kicks. And I'm like, must be nice. I tweeted out the unfair cheat code that is the automatic ability to make 37-yard field goals. Who knew? Who knew what a cheat code that is?
See, I'm not even asking for that much. I'm not even asking for the 50-yard field goals. I don't want my kicker kicking from the logo.
Just
But, like,
45 and under. Just give
some
me
of the
90,
fourth downs they
95.
went for, that the
What's that?
Packers went for in this last game, some of the fourth downs that they went for that could have tied up the
Oh
game
yeah.
or put the Packers ahead if they would have gone for a field goal, and they were just like, "No, man, we're not running them out again." That's what I was so surprised about, that they made those fourth down decisions, and they're still like, "Oh no, we're still fully confident in Narvison." I'm like, "You're lying
They're
to me."
not. They're clearly not.
Yeah,
But
they're not. They're just not, and that's why I'm like, we're wasting time, man. Go trade for a kicker. I don't want this Rams game to come down to a kicker.
what's going to happen is they're going to trade for some really good kicker, and he's going to come to Green Bay and go like, 6 of 12 or some crap like that. It's just, I don't know. I'm bitter about kickers right now. All right, have you had a chance to watch any Rams film yet?
Yeah, their offensive line is not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. I want to take advantage of that offensive line.
Hopefully this is a get right game for the Packers defensive front, because it sort of needs to be. If this is a game you can't do anything against the offensive front, Alaric Jackson had a nice game last week, I thought, but this is their line: Alaric Jackson, Logan Bruss, Bo Limmer, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein. Like, yeah,
There's
you
like
got to be
one
able to
starter in there.
Havenstein, Dotson, maybe ish, and that's basically about it. Yeah.
They lost so many guys, like, immediately. And again, the Niners defense isn't that good, quietly. I don't know if
Yeah, no,
anyone's
for sure.
really
I
paid
agree.
attention to that. They're banged up. Fred Warner's playing out of his mind. But then after, like, Warner and Bosa, I'm like, is Lenore like their third best player on that defense right now? Like, that might be an honest answer right now. So I'm
Not
not sure.
Devondre Campbell. Are you telling me it's not Devondre Campbell?
Did you see the thing?
I saw he was rotating recently. I didn't see anything this week. I saw last week.
He was complaining.
Yeah.
He hit it. Got a text back from Mark Dugarian,
Here we
the
go.
NFL's own.
The drum roll is in.
Yes, international practice squad guys are treated like any other practice squad guy now.
Okay. There we go.
So
Alex
this
Hale it is.
this past year. So previously, the international guys, you had one division in the AFC, one division in the NFC, who got a new batch of international guys, right? This year was the first year everyone got a new batch of international guys, which is why the Packers were allowed to swap out Kenneth Odumegwu with Hale. So apparently this is a rule change now. There we go.
We're saved.
Hale can be activated. We have our backup plan if the Falcons say no for Younghoe Koo for our first-round pick. Can you imagine if we sent – like, what if we just didn't have day 2 in Green Bay for the draft this year because we needed a kicker that bad?
Oh, my God. Yeah,
I'm willing to send it. I'm ready to hit the button.
I wanted to ask this to Goody at some point. I couldn't like actually get myself to, because it's a ridiculous question like that you shouldn't probably ask. But like, I kind of wanted to ask him of like, has there been any pressure on you from inside or outside the organization of like, hey, you cannot trade your 2025 first round pick? Like, the draft is in Green Bay. I'm sure.
You can't.
Yeah.
I know. I think I've brought this up on this pod before. Kansas City had to trade for a pass rusher for a first round pick.
Yep. We've talked about this.
They were all lined up, and the owner had to step in and was like, no, you are not going to run this event where you ruin this event where hundreds of thousands of people are going to fly into Kansas City for the weekend. You're just not going to do that. Like, there's no way. They might touch other picks. Like, as long as you have one pick every day, it'll be fine. But there's no way they're going to touch that first round pick.
No, for sure. No, I totally agree. All right. Packers, Rams. I think this is a get right. Not a get right. It's not like Green Bay's 1-3 and needs like a get right game, but I think they get back on track. I think they pick up a win against LA. And I do think it just kind of gets them some momentum and going in the right direction and starting to get into a rhythm for a first month of the year that has gone completely not in rhythm at all and has had every turn in direction you can possibly imagine. I think this is like the start of the new season for Green Bay, where hopefully it's back to normal this week.
100%. I mean, this, well, like famous last words and all that stuff, but this feels like the stakes of a preseason game, right?
Yeah.
Green Bay's favored by 3.5 points on the road right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so if that's in Green Bay, right, that's like a 9-point line. Honestly, I might take that line right now, 3.5. Like I don't see it with this Rams team being able to compete with Green Bay and
It's going to be a
having
Green Bay crowd.
off of this loss. Yeah, of course. People from the Midwest love to travel to to the southern West Coast cities for some reason for these games. Get out of the cold, I guess. But yeah, I fully expect a Green Bay win. I expect the pass rush at the very least to look better. If they can't do it against this Rams team, that's when it's like,
Uh-oh.
Do we need to go trade for Hassan Reddick? Like, we're gonna have some conversations next week if we cannot get a pass rush on this offensive line. One of like the weirdest sideshows in the NFL right now is the Rams punter. Just
Hecker?
no, it's not Hecker. It's a young kid. Let me find his name.
It is Ethan Evans.
Ethan Evans from Wingate. So he's from like a D2 school, 250 pounds, totally yoked up. There's videos of him like squatting like 650 pounds in the weight room. He might end up going down as like the GOAT kicker. Like he does insane stuff, even on some of those like banana kicks that like Bajorquez did back when he was in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Just like the most powerful leg in a way that it is funny. So
we could have a punter off in this game. Like we could just have a
Yeah.
This could be the NFC Pro Bowl punter competition in this one.
2 go in, 1 leave. 100%.
All right, let's do it. Any final thoughts, Justice, before we get out of here? Awesome stuff as always, man.
Give me a kicker. Pass rush needs to play better. Stock down on Eric Wilson and Eric Stokes, both of the Erics. Get healthy, Jair and Carrington Valentine.
Anyone stock up for you right now?
Slayton. Okay. I actually think Slayton had a pretty decent game.
I thought he was not good at all in like the first like 5 to 10 snaps that he had. He was on the ground like literally 4 times. And then in the second half, it was either second half or maybe even like mid second quarter, he like decided like, all right, I'm going to play now. And then he looked really good after that point.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get a little bit more out of him, especially considering the
they're going to need it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming when walking boot, he's at least not playing this week.
So, I would assume as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're wrong, but I would assume very much as well. All right, go follow this man at JUMOSQ on Twitter. You can find him, of course, at acmepackingcompany.com. You can find this podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL. That's going to do it for Justice and I today. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.